Welcome folks to Age of Wonders 4, my current hyperfixation and, in my opinion, the best fantasy 4X in the market. This game also differentiates itself by having a surprisingly robust set of role-playing elements, and believe you me, I love role-playing. I think RPGs are God's gift to mankind, and while mechanically this is a 4X strategy game, make no mistake, it has enough RPG-ness to it that I'm having a blast every time I reinstall the game. If you are unfamiliar with what a 4X even is, commonly it refers to strategy games where you play as a faction and you do the 4X's, which are exploration of the map, expansion of your territory, exploitation of the resources available, and extermination of those who stand in your way. I've been playing this game since launch last year, off and on. I'm not good at strategy games, I want to make this clear, definitely more of a casual gamer here, but using Age of Wonders 4 as some sort of a fantasy story generator or visualizer is very fun, and is the main way I play the game. And what better way to showcase this than to play one of the game's pre-built offerings. The game and the subsequent DLCs comes with scenario campaigns with lore building on the previous installments of Age of Wonders games. And for this video, I want to showcase and play for the first time the first scenario of the Empires and Ashes DLC campaign, the Freed Lands of Manuhari. After choosing the campaign, it is time for faction creation. This game allows you to pick from a plethora of forms ranging from fantasy staples like elves and dwarves to the more niche and or furry persuasions like lion folk and wolf folk. We are picking Sirens, basically super magic elves. And building on that, we are picking the mystic culture with the summoning subculture. Essentially, this means that we are super magic elves from space that are very good at magic, and we summon stuff to help us. Next is our society traits. These gives us goals on top of flavor. These goals you do during gameplay, and we are picking mana channelers because it helps with summons, making them cheaper, and talented collectors because I think this is good for flavor. Curiosity as a cause of downfall is fun, and this ties to what I think the story of the faction is. And now is the choice of tomes. Tomes are a way to customize our faction as the game goes along. Over time, we'll pick up more tomes, but for our starter, we're picking Tome of Evolution here. It cements our lore focus and gives us the ability to play with dragon units, as well as slowly turn our people into dragon hybrids over the course of the game, which is never not cool. And now comes probably the biggest RPG draw of the game. You get to create the leader of your faction. It's character creation. It can be a champion risen from the ranks of the people. Wizard Kings are sort of isekai conquerors. They come from other worlds to subjugate and be worshipped. Champions will always be the same form as your people, so if we pick champion, it will be a Siron. But Wizard Kings are free to choose whatever form they want, so if you want to live your fantasy as a short halfling being surrounded and worshipped by wolf people, you can, and this is the ruler choice for you. You can also be a dragon, very fun, would recommend, and we will probably play one down the line. And last but not least is an eldritch being, because why not? But for now, a simple champion would suffice. As we fast forward through our champion creation, let me tell you the story premise of the actual game and what I've cooked up for our faction here. The skinny of it is the rulers in this game are the equivalent of Magic the Gathering planeswalkers. They have the ability to travel to different worlds through something called the Astral Sea, but unlike Magic the Gathering, instead of traveling alone or in a small group, these rulers uproot their whole society, or at least a portion of it, when they phase out. Details are, I believe, rather blurry by design. Each faction has their own way of doing it, and you are encouraged to expand upon yours. And now we've come to ours. What I have imagined us being is an exiled splinter group of our people. Simply put, we were a part of a larger Siron nation before our sect of people got banished for, you guessed it, dragon worship. Curiosity killed the cat and exiled a whole sect of people because they wanted to be scalies. Meet the lady whose fault it is, Astral Wayfinder Somnara Vina of the Osirite Drake Wardens. Quite a mouthful, but these are all customizable. I've even written down a custom faction blurb. It says the same thing as what I've said, but fancier. Every time I boot up this game, the embers of creative and fanfiction writing within me is rekindled, and I am always so excited. But enough of that, onward with the campaign.
Before the Fourth Age, when the final world seal of Athla was opened, the Elven court and Commonwealth put aside their grievances and made a brave stand against the invading wizard kings. In the wars that followed, these heroic alliances crumbled, and entire armies were cast into the depths of the Astral Sea. The dreadnought Edward Portsmouth and the sorceress Larissa commanded the vanguard of Commonwealth war machines. After they plummeted into the Astral Sea, they were adrift between worlds, haunted by lurking horrors. Only Larissa's magic, paired with Edward's resourcefulness, protected the castaways from the magical currents. After what felt like an eternity of torment, the drifting remnants of the Commonwealth sensed a shift in the currents and happened upon a realm which appeared out of nowhere. The survivors met its inhabitants, an ancient, knowledgeable people called the Krasura. Negotiations were challenging, but the survivors were allowed to recuperate from their trials. Edward's mind, however, did not seem to recover. Over time, his resentment towards wizard kings grew, and he vowed to free the entire Astral Sea from their curse. He started traveling to other realms to liberate them, leaving devastation in his wake as he condemned and hunted anyone who would support or even tolerate the rule of any wizard king. Edward's erratic behavior concerned Larissa, his lifelong friend and companion during their journey through the Astral Sea. But amidst the growing conflict between the Krasura and Commonwealth remnants, Edward increasingly ignored Larissa's pleas, and her influence diminished. Thus, it was shortly after Edward's last departure that Larissa saw no choice but to send out a secret call for aid, for a Godia who could end Edward's march of destruction.
After that gorgeous but brief cutscene, I bid thee welcome to the campaign map. Spawning in, we are immediately greeted by the lovely Larissa Mirabilis in a sort of psychic projection or vision. This is how the game handles its quest system. This first one reiterates that the Commonwealth survivors and the local birdfolk, the Krasura, are locked at war, and tells us that we need to meet her at her hideout. We also have an initial choice to make about the purpose of our presence in this land. We decide that we are here to study the mysterious magic, and now we get to play the game. I have loaded this map on normal difficulty and have absolutely no shame to admit that I usually play on easy. Again, I'm very casual and very bad, and my enjoyment comes from crafting fantasy narratives. So the game. This overworld view is the main view in which you play the game. You have your armies that you maneuver around, especially in the early game where eradicating neutral armies are important because they guard valuable pickups or resource nodes on the map and you need to level up your units. All this while your cities generate resources and recruit more units for your army. To actually clear enemy camps, you need to battle them using your army stack versus theirs. You can let the AI auto-resolve the battle for you, and that's generally the approach you're gonna take, because some of the larger late game battles, while epic, have the potential to drag on. But it's early and the auto-resolve lost us a unit, which is expensive, so I'm gonna fight this manually. Welcome to the battle map! In Age of Wonders, clashes between armies get resolved in this XCOM style tactical battle done on hexes. It's honestly very cool and is a lot of fun. But the amount of combat you'll do over the course of a game can make the time you spend in XCOM mode feel disproportionate to the actual game should you choose to fight every battle manually, and that's just not a very fun thing for me. But there are battles that I'll do manually just to be cinematic or preventing the loss of a key unit. We managed to negotiate the manual battle easily without any losses, and that is fantastic for our early game. After the engagement, our hero Somnara leveled up. When heroes gain levels, we can pick a hero skill for them. They are divided into warfare, battle magic, or support. Warfare and battle magic makes your hero themselves better during battle map encounters, while support gives the benefits to the units in the hero's army. We are building Somnara as an archer, so our first skill pickup will be Archery 1. A bit later, we finally reached the hideout of Larissa and we got some more details about what is happening in the realm. The Commonwealth's main guy, Edward, is currently off-world and has left a certain Valerie in charge to repel the advance of the local birds. With this step of the quest done, we have a choice of recruiting her into our faction as either another hero like Somnara or as a counselor in which she will give us passive research bonus. We'll enlist her as a counselor because research is tied to tome progress, and the more tome we go through, the faster we become dragon hybrids. She also gives us a more direct reward for essentially giving her a new home, so we will grab the ability to research from the Tome of Evocation. And now our goal in this land is clear, our main quest unlocked. It is to stop the conflict between the Commonwealth remnants and the Krasuras, whether through ceasefire or seizing the life making the fire. During all this, we have finished researching the Summon Wyvern Fledgling spell. These are weak early game melee units that can evolve should they level up enough. The thing about our faction is that we are, again, summoners, so we can pump magic to units we summon to make them level up and evolve faster. The bonus starts incrementally, but once the unit gets going, they get pretty boss pretty fast. After settling in, Larissa once again came to us, this time with information about an individual with possible answers about the nature of this conflict. We meet one Hamaro from the Wing of Lost Wisdom. They are a subset of Krasuran society dedicated to learning about their past. Essentially, they are archaeologists. He thinks we'll find an answer in a ruin they call the Eye of Manuhari and asks us to help clear it of hostiles so they can build a research camp there. Being our only lead for the moment, we say yes. These ruins are what's called a wonder in the game, and they are like mini dungeons with small built-in stories. Clearing them and annexing them into your territories will give you bonuses. It is southbound from our city, so we start our slow march down. Also south of us are the very angry Mysticarium. They're a free city, which means they're not part of any larger factions. I say very angry because they have decided that they don't agree with us and we are now immediately at war, which means we will do the last X. Extermination. Wars with free cities are typically not that hard, unlike a whole faction with multiple cities that are churning units. They're just one territory with a very small army. Nevertheless, we start recruiting and summoning more units to our army because sooner or later we do need multiple stacks that can cover multiple occurrences, or should worst come to pass, fight a war on two fronts. We start the war effort by catching this out of position unit by a gold vein, where the auto combat cleared that off easy. Our leader Somnara leveled up from that battle and we had her learn the summon undead spell. We start summoning wyvern fledglings to bolster our numbers as we go ahead and lay siege on Mysticarium. After turns of sieging and the continual bolstering of our numbers via summoning, evolution, and recruitment, including recruiting Ninti the Glorious, our faction's second hero, we finally have the opportunity to strike at the heart of Mysticarium. And after a decisive battle, we have brought the opposing Mysticarium down, and we will raise the city. And from their ashes arise a humble outpost dedicated to studying the Eye of Manuhari. Also, this outpost will eventually grow to be a second city for our people. Also around this time, we have completed the necessary research to imbue our people with draconic vitality. Not gonna lie, while I am a big fan of the spikes, I could do without the black hair. And as we move to investigate the inside of the Eye of Manuhari, we are met with what seemed to be this world's defense mechanism, the Warden Golem of Manuhari. We set off to dispatch it with haste and successfully do so with minimal losses. But it's revealed that it can just reassemble itself, and off it went somewhere for repairs, as we prepare for another assault to come eventually. However, with this, the Eye of Manuhari is free for us to explore, but before that, we get to choose a new tome to pour our research into. We are picking the Tome of Glades. It's a powerful feel-good tome that enables us to get closer to nature. Literally too, because it has the terraforming magic Create Forest, among other arguably more powerful things. That includes our first research, the Leaf Skin spell. After a few turns of building up the outpost, we are finally ready to take on the Eye of Manuhari itself, and after using magic to weaken the defenses before the battle, we let auto-resolve take the wheel and we lost no unit in a high-risk battle. Big fan. After the battle, our troops found some void stone tablets that furthered our research on the Leaf Skin spell, and Hamuro excitedly regaled us with more information on the locals as things. Our outpost also annexed the province the Eye of Manuhari is in, and this allows us to further sponsor Hamuro's research by establishing a formal research post there. We recruited our third hero, Izar the Courageous, and we awarded him with a lance from nature itself and a lion as a mount, so he may be worthy of his name. Once again, we are approached by Larissa, regaling us with new discoveries from the Eye of Manuhari and how we can help expedite the research process by visiting the wonder itself. After some time faffing about in our territory, making sure it's free from monsters, we cast Leaf Skin on ourselves. With this, we are slightly more resistant to magic, become more powerful when fighting in forests, and most importantly, become green, because, well, it's implied in the name. We then spend a good bit of time on self-improvement, or as we say in the strategy community, teching up, and defending ourselves from another warden attack. And picking up the Tome of Revelry, which is a chaos tome that boosts unit morale in combat by making them essentially the battle maniac trope from media, before finally meeting face to face with the Krasura, and their leader, Zandera the Phoenix. Despite the distrust, we try to explain that we are here in peace and succeeded the skill check. We then got a lore dump about the Krasura and why the world of Manuhari was essentially sealed off from the Astral Sea. We then try to maintain peace and neutrality and avoid war by succeeding a nature skill check and befriending the local birds. Not bird folk like the Krasura, but literal tiny birds to hopefully persuade the Krasura that hey, we're pretty chill. I thought the first meeting was fine. It was neat finally meeting another ruler instead of a free city, and then I checked my southern border and it sent me into panic. She has a city right there. It's right next to my outpost that I was gonna turn into our third city. This is not good. She already doesn't trust us because we are foreign in this land, and we found a city there and started claiming provinces. As the city expands towards her borders, it might strain the relationship even more. It may lead to war, which is not a thing I want, to be perfectly clear. Thankfully, Gyrax, a counselor to Zandera, reached out to us and proposed a way to broker peace between the Krasura and our Drake Wardens by completing the same trials that led to Zandera's crowning as the leader of her people. At this point, I was honestly already sweating, and I set out to clear these trials ASAP, as fast as possible, before our relationship devolves further. To aid us in clearing these trials, I forged Somnara a new bow. It deals blight damage, has increased crit chance, it bleeds, it poisons, it's great! Christening it the Bow of the Long Hunt, because when the target is bleeding and poisoned after one shot, you just kinda need to chill and hang back. And that's a pretty cool mental image to have about a bow. We begin the forging process immediately. We start our trail of trials with the Trial of Wisdom. These trials are quite interesting because they are designed to be run solo by the leader unit itself. The Trial of Wisdom asks what we would preserve from our civilization should we be on the brink of extinction. I think those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it, and thus we posit keeping the record of history would be best. The Trial Proctor, which are the spirit of Krasuran leader of the past, agreed, and we have passed the Trials of Wisdom. After passing the Trial of Wisdom, our Bow of the Long Hunt is ready, and now Somnara hits like a truck that also bleeds and poisons you. It's great! And just in time for another golem attack that we repel with no trouble. Our second trial is the Trial of Fealty, where the Trial Proctor demands us answer the call to arms to defend our people. To combat we go, and we survive just by a hair, and we pass the trial. Very simple, big fan. Before the final trial, we finally unlock the Tome of Dragons and begin researching ways we can recruit young dragons into our army, and of course, eventually, Draconic Transformation. The last trial we must undertake is the Trial of Leadership. This trial asks us how we would preserve unity among the people, which, if you forgot, we are an exiled sect of our own people. We kinda don't know what we're talking about here, but spending some of our abundant mana to invoke glories of the past seems to be an acceptable answer. And thus we prevailed in the trials, and Zandera reached out to us. We gained the friendship and forged a brand new alliance with the Krasura, and now we face northward to hopefully reach out to the Commonwealth remnants. And not a moment too soon as well, because we are then contacted by Valerie of House of Vernos, the acting leader of the Commonwealth remnants. Not gonna lie, them spouting peace and prosperity while fighting what is essentially a colonial war against the Krasura rubs me the wrong way. But our mission of peace remains. Continuing the conversation, we are tasked with retrieving a strongbox from their fallen ship, the same ship Larissa used as a hideout at the start of the game. Also, the tone of this conversation is concerning to say the least, but we must press on. There are 5 stacks of enemies near the broken land ship we need to clear, but it's actually rather deceiving because we don't need to kill all of them. Only one have the strongbox, and once you've cleared that, you automatically complete the quest even though you haven't cleared them all. We do need to start tackling this somewhat quickly because the Commonwealth and the Kruzura are still at war, and one of the Kruzuran cities is under siege. In the meanwhile, we can now start recruiting young dragons into our army. Happy days! Although sadly they can't be pumped full of magic to help evolve faster in the name of something stupid called game balance. But they are still dragons that we can send after our enemies. Speaking of enemies, thankfully it only took us wiping 2 stacks to get hold of the lucky strongbox. And after returning them to Valerie, the conversation shifts towards a more positive tone. It is then made clear to us that she needed to maintain some show of support towards the war effort because she is in fact struggling to maintain power and control. The craze and fervor of war has turned the reasonable people of the Commonwealth into a rampaging train with thirst for chicken blood. We are then tasked with taking care of the primary instigating faction, a rogue contingent of Commonwealth soldiery, so Valerie can restore her legitimacy and steer the remnants towards peace. While all this is going on, we are besieged yet again by the Warden Golem, but we have a feather of friendship with Zandera that we can show to get it to leave us alone. Also, Hamaro's research is coming to a head and we discover at the heart of the eye of Manuhari, that's a mouthful, lies something called a world seal, which would explain how Manuhari was cut off from the Astral Sea previously. Armed with this new knowledge, Larissa is determined that this can help stop Edward Portsmouth, the main Commonwealth guy, and she thanks us for our help. With the end in sight, we engage in battle against the rogue Commonwealth hardliners and find a disturbing, seemingly external force puppeteering the events that's been happening. We deny the power the weird voice offers us and use everything in the final battle, including the summoning of the Warden Golem to fight at our side. After a hard-fought battle and the dissidents dead, Valerie is able to right the ship and we ushered in peace between the remnants and the Krazuras.
Thus, by ending the conflict on the freed lands of Manuhari, a brave Godir revealed the knowledge about the legendary world seals. Many Godir had known about the structures which had once obscured Athla itself from the Astral Sea, but only the wizard named Merlin had ever activated them. Armed with the knowledge from the seal's very creators, Larissa Mirabilis continued her quest to stop Edward on his path of destruction.
After the game is over, we can choose an ascension trait for our ruler Somnara. We picked Dragonheart because obviously, and now Somnara is part of our pantheon, the Shapers. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. I want to do more of Age of Wonders in this style. I am not an in-depth strategy game god, but I am a sucker for fantasy narratives and I just think this game is awesome. Hope to see you around.